little better.
Crank it up, crank it up.
There we
That's
go.
great.
How's this? How's this?
Label,
Am I good?
thank you, Label, for being on our regular list. Please introduce us to Moshe Shabbos.
Okay, here we go.
Sitting next to you.
Can you hear? Assuming you can hear me now.
Wow.
Oh, say shalom bimrema.
Wait a minute.
Label, unmute. I
By
accidentally
accident,
got
my
muted.
husband muted you.
Okay, how are we doing
Everybody
now?
else should mute. Everybody else should mute
Okay.
themselves, please.
We're good.
Okay, say when.
Go.
Ready? Oh, say shalom bimrema. Oh, yes, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al Yisrael. Imru amen. Yaseh shalom bimrema. Oh, yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al Yisrael. Imru amen. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Yaseh Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Yaseh Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Yaseh Yisrael. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, Yalko Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, Yalko Yisrael. Now this next one, perhaps you've heard of Torah Tots. A dear friend of ours by the name of Ruvain Richard, if you will, Stone. Richard Stone is the creator of Torah Tots, but he's putting out a whole album of more adult pieces, one of which I'm about to sing. And I'm going to be singing all the stuff on the album.
And you're in the middle of creating it.
What's that?
And you're in the middle of creating it.
And I'm in the middle of creating it. Don't ever let a rabbi be a cowboy. Those beards don't do well on hot, dusty trail. And that Streimel, Guten Heimel, that flow like a Keimel. And Chalif Yisrael, milk in a pail. Don't ever let a rabbi be a cowboy. You can't lasso doggies with 8 sets of strings. There ain't hardly a minion or a pizza shop to freshen, and cattle don't square for the summon, my friend. Each morning at sunrise, he waits for a minion. Some dusty old rustlers with tallis and tefillin. Shabbos is lonely, for yet is confined to his tent and his chulent on this Erev-less line. Adi-hoodly, adi-hoodly, hoodly-dee. You don't ever let a rabbi be a cowboy. Yeah, you can't find a saddle that's tagged shotness free. And kosher delight don't deliver out west. And chili is your chillin' when you need to press. Don't ever let a rabbi be a cowboy. Twirling his pass to pass a long day. And a checkerboard tallis and a gartle of rope. Can't find a chauffeur among these cowfolk. Fresh River's the mikvah before Tzukki to Zimra. And there's lots of time for inventing new chimras. Yom Kippur, his high leather boots he does hock. For square dancing care a spur-dangling pair of plastic boot Crocs. And when he gets back to his nice Brooklyn shul, all the Hasidim at the Farbrengen, he'll speak of the tourists, of life on the road. Yeah, but those cowboy boots are a-clicking under his robe. Adi-hoodly, adi-hoodly, hoodly. Yoo-hoo!
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Labo. Thank you.
This rabbi has ridden a few horses.
Okay, Havdalah. Hine el Yeshua tivtach v'lo efcha ki oziv v'zimratya Adonai v'hili Yeshua u'shavim mayim b'sason mimaneh Yeshua l'Adonai ha'Yeshua m'chabich chatecha sela Adonai tzvaot b'imanu mizkav lanu hekov sela Adonai tzvaot asher damotech vach Adonai Hoshia, Melech Yaneinu, V'yom Koreinu. Laidim Haitorah V'simcha V'sason V'ikar Ken Tielanu Kos Yeshua Tesav V'shem Adonai Ekra Savrei Manan Rabbanan Rabbotai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Pri Hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei besamim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lecho ben or lechoshech ben yisrael la'amim ben yom hashvi l'sheshet yemei ha'maseh Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lecho.
Amen.
Shavua Tov. Our halachic story tonight starts out in a police vehicle. The policeman is driving on his patrol, and he hears over the radio that help is needed at a particular location. The location is identified. And this officer is listening carefully because he's very near the location. And he says that there is a driver who is driving recklessly, swerving consistently. And, you know, the closest officer should please, respond, alert headquarters that he's on the way, and to intervene to bring that vehicle to a halt. So the officer, even as the report is still continuing, he already has the vehicle in sight. And when he looks at the car and the license plate, he knows it's his father's car. And from what he can see through the window, it's his father driving the vehicle. And in his mind, he's not certain what to do. Now, I don't know if while he was still driving, if he was able to place this question, but then we've had some questions which obviously on the spot, the person makes a decision and then finds out if he made the right decision or not. But the information that would be needed was presented by Rav Silverstein in reminding us that in Yoredeya, in the Shulchan Aruch, that the halacha tells us that if a person was on staff of the Jewish Beis Din And if a person was found guilty, which means there were witnesses, person was warned, nevertheless he wanted to do it, but there was witnesses, and let's say that the penalty for what this person done, and with defiance of the witnesses, meaning he had knowledge that it was prohibited, let's say if the particular violation merited consequences of lashes, which the Beis Din could perform, that a person who worked for the Beis Din and who was the one in charge of the lashes, if one of his parents were found to be guilty of this type of violation, that he's not allowed to be the one to give the lashes. And even with something not as serious physically as lashes, if a person was judged by the Beis Din to receive excommunication for a particular action that he took, that a child, again, who normally might be in charge of escorting the person out of the community into excommunication, should not do that if his parent was the one being excommunicated. So the level of kibud ava'im, of honor and of reverence, yirat horim, having reverence for parents, prevents us from doing certain types of actions which we would be allowed to do, to other people. So the question is whether that would apply here. But this case is rather different than either of the two, because the cases that presented based upon the Shulchan Aruch are ones that really only concern the parents and the son having to do something to the parents. But here we're having a person who happens to be the officer's father, who is endangering life. He potentially endangering his own life. He could have even if it's a single car accident, God forbid, he could crash into a wall, and he could seriously injure himself or worse, and he could collide with other vehicles, pedestrians. That he is at this moment a rodef. He is someone who is, even though it may not be intentional, but he is in the category of a pursuer who, normally we talk about a pursuer of having intent to harm, but even though here his intent is not to harm, but his actions are potentially harmful. And so the officer must intervene. If he's the closest one, he must intervene as soon as possible to prevent any type of damage happening to anybody, to any type of harm. Now, if there were another officer who was equally as close, and certainly if one was closer, then yes, there would be a preference for the other officer to be involved. But otherwise, the concern for the safety of people would supersede these other concerns, and the officer should intercede and bring the vehicle to a halt, and whatever other follow-up steps would be appropriate at that time. But let's all keep safe and sound and have good stories to share with one another. Shavua Tov, you're welcome to unmute
Shavua Tov.
yourself.